This is the defendant lobby, alright, but there's no defendant. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? And where's Emma, for that matter? It's almost as if it seems as if something's been happening behind the scenes. Please, no walking on keyboard. Edgeworth. Knowing you, you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 77777 ID number is, that is. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt regarding this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True, not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling. 5 minutes, Wright, and Chief Prosecutor Skye will be found guilty. But she didn't do it. I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. Please, no walk on keyboard. Oh, God. You actually pushed Alt F4. The cat actually pushed Alt F4. God damn it. The truth? Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid, today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. Funny, coming from you, given how much time we spent on the past in your trial. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, Wright? This is it. If I'm gonna find out what Chief Gant has on her, it's now. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally, this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gant? Morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Hey, Ajee, been back to the pool yet? No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my work. Oh, that's a good one. Don't think I can top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, what exactly is this proposal of yours? Lana, that is to say, the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. What's all this about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request and I'll be finished. Well then, what's your request? Your Honor, I'd like to put an immediate end to this trial. Huh? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21 of this year, I murdered Bruce Goodman. In the underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. No, Lana! You can't. Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. I'm not sure you can do that, dude. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But Lana! Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please. Well, the defendant certainly has the right to self-representation. The request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial. even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise. This can't be happening. It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant.
Objection!
One moment, Your Honor.
Mr. Edgeworth?
The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature. Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and shut your mouth, I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant. What? Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy you would have me be. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal, Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness.
Oh? To whom?
As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. I request the court hears her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to continue. I don't care what you think, Miss Skye. The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it.
Very well, the court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant?
Worthy. You'll live to regret this. Mark my words. Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. What a guy. Taking one for the team. Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is Emma Skye. My occupation, I'm Lana's little sister, that's a job, alright? And I want to be a scientific investigator. 2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct? Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though. I'm sorry. But I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time.
Mr. Edgeworth, please remember this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant?
Yes, it most certainly is.
Well, okay then.
You sure gave in fast. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. Yesteryear? Yeah. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. Question. Why are we still here? Why are we still here exactly, about to engage in a cross-examination, when Lana said she was going to self-represent? I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest. Does the thing say in the back? God, we got a lot of evidence. Where's the... Here we go. Single stab wound piercing heart and lungs. Okay, that doesn't actually say. Never mind. Didn't we see something where the knife was in his back? I feel certain we saw something that showed Marshall got stabbed in the back. I guess not. It's been a few days. Okay.
It's a good thing you weren't harmed.
I passed out. I don't remember much.
That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder?
That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence. Yeah, this is very much a, boy, I hope that this is justified in the end moment.
The defense may begin its cross-examination, which is definitely not actually us anymore, but we're just gonna not address that fact.
2 years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct? Yes, she was second in command under then Deputy Chief of Police Gant. My sister, she was the best detective ever.
Yes, I remember. Deputy Chief Gant and Miss Skye used to be quite the pair.
I believe they share the same office. That's right, I'd always sit at my sister's desk and dream about playing that organ. I wanted to play it that day too. The police department and the prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day. Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work. A man? Yes, Joe Dark. He was a serial killer. I mean, if we're to believe, I think the correct term would be spree killer, but, you know, if any of that was actually true, since Gumshoe told us that whole fucking story and then was like, oh yeah, by the way, I made that all up. It was all conjecture. Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on that day of the ceremony. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest.
When he saw his chance, he fled the room, right?
Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. I thought he just ran across from the elevator. No one said anything about taking the elevator up, did they? That's even more fucking ridiculous. So, it was bad enough already when I thought he just ran past the elevator into another office. Now you're telling me he ran in the elevator and then went up? Okay. Then ran into Skye and Gant's office. There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look. That's when I saw him. What was the prosecutor doing there? That day, there were two people present during Dark's questioning. Deputy Chief Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Almost forgot about Gant. Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony.
I assume that would also be why he was the first to run after Dark.
And yet no one mentions the fact Gant was present and did nothing. When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was good as dead. And that's when Prosecutor Marshall came running in. I don't clearly remember what happened then, but... Can you tell us about that? Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. Just then, the lights went out.
The lights?
It was just about that time of year. There was a terrible storm going on and lightning struck nearby. So the electricity went out.
Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right?
Right, but just then lightning flashed again outside. Then that sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind.
I see.
I told the detective about what I saw then. The detective. Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case. Detective Bruce Goodman, the victim. Hear more. So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago? Yes, that's what's so scary about this trial. And then you told Detective Goodman about what you saw? Yes, but at the time the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture. A picture, yes, I think she mentioned that. I would like to ask about the picture. This picture the witness drew, I believe it has a very important meaning. But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture.
Witness, would you mind if we added this statement to your testimony?
Okay. Seems to have been lost, so what, I slam it here? Which piece of evidence is it on? It's on you, right? Yes. Mr. Edgeworth, this little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet you would insist on denying its existence? Huh? Hey, I'm not the bad guy. All I'm saying is, as the prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold.
This is the evidence list for the SL9 incident.
Please turn it over, Your Honor.
Turn it over, what's this?
Yes, what is that? Hey, that's it. That's the picture I drew.
Indeed. Two men appear to be wrestling here.
What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list?
Me?
Only the prosecutor in charge should have had access to that list.
Huh? These lists, they're different from each other.
What?
It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These two lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here where they were torn apart from each other.
So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case ever reached you. What? What?
Order, order. But Miss Skye, why did you draw your picture on the back of such an important list?
Because that's what Detective Goodman handed me in the questioning room, Your Honor. Wait a minute. If this list was torn in half, then that means... Your Honor.
Are you all right, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head.
If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list.
Yes, that's quite conceivable, Mr. Edgeworth.
It's possible. Let's see.
Is something wrong?
Do you even have to ask? Sorry, Your Honor. There is indeed something drawn on the back of my list. It's that thing. Why the fuck's there a picture of the blue badger on that?
That's that thing. That thing that was dancing in the evidence room.
Clearly this act of vandalism is the work of a certain chief of detectives. I guess he was out of scrap paper. But... Why the fuck did she draw this? I mean, Emma obviously actually drew this part as well, right? But why the fuck did she draw that? What's going on with this? It would seem to imply that this whole blank space behind is like the window, right? Because this looks like an arched window at the top. But there was no fucking disembodied head of the blue badger there. It would also have to be sideways. Actually... No. Right? Right? No. No, I must be reaching. It's just... the prongs kind of reminded me of it. As if it was like... kind of like... that. Do you see it? No. What would that even mean? Like what, the pot was hovering there? What would that even actually mean? It's just these two prongs coming out the back. I kind of saw a shape in that, you know? Anyway,
very well, witness.
What?
No. Will you please testify about this picture you drew 2 years ago?
Huh? Oh, yes, Your Honor. What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she was looking in that picture. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant.
To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image into your mind.
Thanks to that, she was able to show us exactly what she saw.
Very well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder Prosecutor Neil Marshall.
Well, I mean, no, it doesn't clearly show that. The two figures are completely indistinct.
The defense may begin its cross-examination.
Does that contradict something about the autopsy record? Because it's like he's leaning over, piercing heart and lungs. Well, first we're going to have to actually establish that it's not Dark standing over Neil, aren't we? Because this just seems like the obvious twist to throw in. We assume it's Dark over Neil, but it's actually the other way around. Anyway. Did you draw this picture right after the incident? I think I drew it 2 or 3 days later. At first I was in such a state of shock I couldn't do anything. During that time, the investigation was reorganized. Detective Goodman was placed in charge, under the direction of Damon Gant and Lana Skye. 2 or 3 days later. The memory should have still been fresh in her mind.
Excuse me, witness. But could you please tell us why this picture is painted all black?
The flash of lightning was so bright all I could see were shadows. So at that time you didn't even know it was Mr. Marshall who had come to your rescue? No, I couldn't see him clearly. The lightning was so bright and I was knocked to the floor. You were knocked to the floor. Dark had a tight grip on me, but then Mr. Marshall jumped on him. I was knocked away, I turned around, and that's when the lightning flashed. Poor Emma, I'm just glad she wasn't hurt. What happened after the lightning flashed? You mean you didn't see the actual murder take place? No, I'm sorry. The flash of lightning only drove off the darkness for a split second. Not only that, but the trauma of the situation understandably caused the witness to faint. Do you really need to torture this girl any further? What? Hey, I'm not the bad guy here. Anyway, this picture... Sorry for asking so many times, but are you sure you drew exactly what you saw? Of course, this is the exact scene. I wasn't influenced in any way from your talks with the detective. Are you insinuating that we've somehow manipulated her memory, Mr. Wright? No, of course not. I better watch out or he might find some way to cut my salary. I drew this picture before I heard anything from the detectives, so I didn't think anyone's story would have influenced me.
Mr. Wright, is there something that's bothering you about this picture?
Huh? Oh, well... That's strange. She claims this is exactly what was imprinted in her mind, and yet, there's clearly a contradiction here. There is. Are you just talking about, like, the wounds? Because the wounds on the autopsy list is, heart and lungs, but this is a weird position to have stabbed somebody in the heart and lungs from. Right, like top down on top of them? That's weird. Is it that? I can't think of much else. I'm not 100% about this. I feel like it's not going to actually say what I want it to say. Oh, it is? I hate to be the bearer. I'm actually kind of surprised. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction. What? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday.
Mr. Wright, Perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us.
How are you gonna make me do this? His position? That's not very convincing. Yeah. How could you? I'm not sure how exactly to say this thing I'm trying to say by pointing at the picture. So then, his position. No. So the knife he's holding. Are we trying to make is it trying to make a different point than what I am? The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken. Really? That is not at all how I would have approached that. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't really read too deeply into the shape of the thing, I just took it as a knife. Okay, I mean, I guess I get it. That's just, given how simple the drawing is, I didn't really question the shape of the knife that much. Because it's also like, why is his hand, like, bigger than his skull, you know?
Even I don't have to look closely to see that, Mr. Wright.
But Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon, its tip is broken too. Yes, the point here is that it shouldn't be broken pre-stabbing.
If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body.
It was the conclusive piece, yes. It's amazing how you're all talking about this without noticing the fact that this was pre-stabbing. I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma. And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken.
Ah! What's the meaning of this?
Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there.
That's right, but what does this mean?
The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already about a little something called falsified evidence? You're treading on thin ice, right? I mean, it's undeniable. Like, Lana has already admitted to there being falsified evidence. You know, all I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. Ah.
Order, order, order. Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted?
Lana told us as much. Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the king This is broken. Ah. Yes, I see. This is the thing that he was holding in the picture she drew. After receiving the King of Prosecutors' award at the ceremony, Mr. Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story, there is a lie. I'm not lying. The man really was holding a broken knife. If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must be another broken knife.
What are the chances of there being 2 broken knives?
Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. Could there have been one? Correct. If the witness is adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error. It definitely could, but we'll go with you anyway. In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife.
I assume, then, that you have some other information about this other broken knife. If so, feel free to enlighten us.
The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look here. Now, do you want me to show the picture or the actual trophy? The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Obviously, but whatever. Right here inside this picture. This is a picture of the awards ceremony. Ah!
What is it, Mr. Edgeworth?
It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the award prosecutor Marshall is holding. That's a broken knife. As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award.
Order, order.
The question is, though, why exactly did they need to hide this fact? Right? Because then, so obviously Dark didn't actually stab him, did he? Because otherwise they would have just used that instead of the fake evidence. It's just like, this is just a weird thing to conceal, so there must be some reason. Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. Which also means that Neil was stood over Dark. But that can't be. Oh, and why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors' award knife was the murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, the man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. Oh! Yeah, as I concluded earlier, but, you know.
But the prosecutor was the one who actually died.
That's true. What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions. Wait, I remember now. I remember everything.
Witness?
Mr. Edgeworth, what is it? Could you show me your evidence list again, please?
His list? The one with that picture scribbled in the back?
I knew it. This picture. I'm the one who drew it. What? You drew that? I mean, yeah. That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. What if we're looking at it upside down? This is going to be a little hard to explain. This might be too much as well. What I'm positing is that the badger is the bottom, and this is the top. From the perspective of Emma seeing it upside down. Like you're on your back, looking up at what's happening. You know what I mean? In which case, this is something on the ground. Well, they both are. But do you see what I mean? I don't think I'm explaining this very well. Because my assumption was, of course, that this is the ground, in which case this is obviously not something floating. However, if you're looking at it upside down, maybe you perceive this thing on the ground differently. You know what I don't know if I make any sense. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me.
Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness testimony. Would you please tell us what you've recalled, Miss Skye?
Yes, Your Honor. First the knife mix-up and now the blue badger. This should be interesting. When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed toward both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Just then there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow. I guess not. I figured I was probably being a bit ridiculous, but it was just something that occurred to me, like, what if it's just we're looking at the picture the wrong way?
This is certainly most unusual.
Try impossible. The chief detectives hadn't even designed him until this year. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago.
Yes, well,
Stop, please, don't pursue this any further. Lana?
What's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair.
But you can't do this, I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that? Chief Prosecutor Skye. We've already come this far. It's too late to turn back.
Silence! The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant.
It seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. I think I have it. She says she rushed the guy and pushed him away with the knife, right? I think I know what happened. So the guy with the knife, as we've established, is Neil Marshall at this point, and she pushed him away thinking he was the murderer. However, in the room, there's something very sharp you could get pushed into. So what I think happened is, Emma rushed them, pushed Neil, thinking he was dark. Neil went backwards onto this, and got stabbed in the back by this. And that's why Lana doesn't want anybody to actually go any further into this, because that means that Emma killed someone. Which also, hence the covering up, and also what Gant has on Lana. Anyway, I think that's what happened. Or at least, that's what they think happened. Because I doubt, much like with the DL6 incident, obviously Edgeworth didn't actually kill anybody, but everybody thought he did for a while, right? So it will probably end up being the same thing, because Emma shows up in other games and is not referred to as a murderer, you know? So, anyway. When you say that man, I assume you refer to Joe Dark. Yes, at least I think it was him. You think? All I could really see were shadows. The power outage that immediately preceded the incident. It is also documented in the prosecutor's office reports.
So then you...
Why would you do something so dangerous? What else could I have done? He was about to stab Mr. Marshall. She seems convinced that Dark was the one holding the knife. But as we've just theorized, Mr. Marshall was the one holding the knife. Well, I didn't know that at the time. When that Dark guy knocked me down, all I could think was I've got to help that other person. What do you mean you think? It happened so fast and I was in shock. I don't remember everything clearly. What I did, it's all kind of a blur. Miss Skye was almost killed before she was witness to a murder about to take place. With so much happening in a matter of seconds, a little disorientation is only natural. I saw the man about to stab the other person, who I thought was Mr. Marshall. I knew I had to stop the man with the knife.
What you did was very brave, young girl. So then what happened next?
True, regardless of the outcome, you know, pretty ballsy thing to do. Are you sure about this? Of course, see? I drew a picture of him here. But It was the chief of detectives who thought up that hideous beast. And that was just this year. The Blue Badger didn't exist 2 years ago. This is all quite verifiable. I know it sounds strange. I was surprised too when I saw him at the police department. I had this nagging feeling that I'd seen him before somewhere. Now I finally remember. Oh, brother, just when you thought that thing had caused enough commotion.
Tell us, where in the room did you see him dancing?
He wasn't in the room. I glossed over that part. He wasn't in the room? His shadow? So you mean you didn't actually see his face with its winning smile and all? That's right, but I still remember it. It had 3 creepy horns. This is pointless. That thing couldn't have possibly existed 2 years ago. The witness must be mistaken. That may well be, but what's important is what caused her to think she saw what she did. Oh, and I suppose you have an explanation. Please tell us what the shadow really was. Who is this Blue Badger? Dog, it's gotta be the fucking vase. A Blue Badger, because if the Blue Badger didn't even exist yet, what else could it possibly be? The Blue Badger hadn't even been dreamt up when Emma drew this picture, yet she's certain she saw its shadow. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the defendant's belief that on that fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the Blue Badger. Something that is now sitting in this very room. Mr. Wright.
In this very room? What is it that the witness saw in that instant?
This feels like such an outrageous thing to present. Fucking hell.
But that's... What exactly is that?
I believe it's some sort of jar, but Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the Blue Badger. Indeed it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint?
Our viewpoint?
I've got to show them the correct angle to look at this from. Oh, God. So we gotta... oh, no. We gotta... We gotta... no. So you have to believe me, this doesn't control very well. It's like that. That's not right? What do you mean that's not right? That looked pretty fucking right to me. It's like... fuck me. Because the stem has to be the middle horn. No. Please. Please. It's like... It's like that. Fantastic. Well, is this a miracle or what? No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the Blue Badger. No, it can't be. So, but... what does this even really prove?
The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious Blue Badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this.
Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? Like, true enough, kind of like, who cares? So that badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. Please tell me. Indeed, very well then. Please tell us. What's different now that we know the witness saw this jar? The location? Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. At a very specific angle, I might add, Mr. Wright. Yes, well, knowing this, where could she have seen this jar? Where? The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant. Right. But the body was found lying near Lana Sky's desk. The witness testified so herself. Yes, and it is these two facts that reveal what actually transpired. You've lost me. The struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room in Chief Gant's office. These are the same room. Are you implying the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Sky's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason. That's fair enough, I guess.
Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright?
I finally figured it out. So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now tell me, what could have sent the jar flying?
That would have to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit?
Ah! The suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous-looking sword.
Yeah. So, while I had already concluded this, it's weird to use that as the piece of evidence, though. Because there are a lot of angles you could... Because implying he got... So he bumped into the shelf and also onto the suit of armor, right? It's kind of weird, isn't it? You know, because in that case he has to have landed on the suit of armor, but also have collided with the shelf to knock the jar off, and they don't look that close in the picture. You know what I mean? It's just kind... Anyway, whatever. I'm sure this... I had already concluded that this is what happened, so it's semantics. And since the man was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall wielding the King of Prosecutors trophy. No. Mr. Wright. You can't be thinking. Yes. There's another possibility of what actually transpired in that room.
Another possibility?
Of course, the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless... I don't know if I can go through with this.
Mr. Wright, what's the matter?
If events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma knocked away was actually Prosecutor Neil Marshall. You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me? No. That's fair enough. I never imagined her testimony would lead to this.
So it was the witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented.
What are you saying? I'm sorry, Miss Skye, but given the circumstances, Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her? Imagine that coming from you. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out what Emma did, wasn't it? I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall? Evidence? I'm willing to bet you don't.
Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this with evidence.
Oh no! If we don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony. But we have a scrap of cloth that's got Emma's fingerprints on it. I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead. We certainly can't get dead people to testify. We could. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning. Touché, Miss Skye. Of course, that leaves us with one possibility. You mean there's still another possibility?
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
I mean the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind the name of the person who took his life, in one manner or another. That's impossible.
Well, Mr. Wright, is this the only possibility left to you?
Does such a message exist? The real murderer is named. The jar? The jar again? I thought there was something written on it a while ago. The message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright, will you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer? Do not be mistaken, Miss Skye. Our purpose is not to accuse Emma of any crime. There is only one thing we seek, the truth, no matter how painful it may be.
Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message.
Right? The jar again. This is the message left by the deceased.
This is that blue badger from before, right?
Oh, is he going to speak the killer's name? If that thing could, I'm sure it would. Looks like everyone's forgotten that this is just a jar. A message was left here, on the surface of this jar. What do you mean? If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this jar. It looks like someone wiped the blood away. Yes, but notice, for some reason the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away.
Yes, there is a line here drawn in blood.
So what are you saying? These dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious minutes left to him to leave behind a message. One that someone apparently wiped away. But blood must have seeped into the jar where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect these points, and the victim's message will become apparent. No.
Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us?
Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal to us the answer. There's only one thing here. His murderer's name. You actually want me to do this? No. No, you're good with that one already? Okay. No, not like that. Undo, undo. Can I do this? Do I have to do all the points in between? No, fuck. Undo. No, not that much. Do you really not want me to connect this part, though? I guess not. What do you think? I came up with this message.
Yes.
What? What do you mean that wasn't right? That looked pretty much like it said Emma to me, brother. It's a defense attorney's duty to prove their client's innocence. That's why I've been thinking about... That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. Emma. So this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind.
Of all people. She may not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life was Emma Skye.
Seaworthy? Can't say I didn't warn you. Chief Gant. Do you understand the implications of what you've done? What? 2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in the case, were you not? Ah. Yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Oh yes, because of him, definitely. You know, not the people there. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction. Yes, of course, knowingly, right? But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer. That's undeniable. I'm afraid that's not important. Didn't you know? We aren't defenders of justice. What? We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter, even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence forgery. Ultimately, the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. Despite what anyone may say, the fact cannot be denied.
What's going on at the prosecutor's office? They might have sent an innocent man to his death. How could he just stand there? Order, order, order!
The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to unsettle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows. Well, I'd say we made a lot of progress today. That's definitely all good. We're getting there. We're one step closer to saving the city.